Good afternoon. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to start today on talking about the strategic management, but where we talk of the competitive advantage at the country level. Okay, so let's start with it. And yes, let's go with it. Okay. So what is strategic management? Now, strategic management, it provides an overall direction to any organization, right? And it also helps in specifying the objectives of the organization. And based on this, like how the policies and plans are developed as to how to achieve these objectives. And then based on that, based on the policies and plans, resources are allocated to implement the plans. Okay, so academics and practicing managers they have developed number of models and frameworks which helps in strategic decision making in a business environment which is quite complex in nature and competitive, which is why strategic management is not static in nature. And the models, they often have feedback loop. Feedback is needed. Why? To actually give suggestions on how to improve and analyze the performance, so that at the next level it becomes the performance becomes better. So feedback loop is there, which helps to monitor how the plan is being executed, and which also helps to inform the second round of planning as to how to go about with it. So we are basically going to talk about strategy, management, and competitive advantage. So what is the need for competitive advantage? Now, no business firm, right, anywhere in the world can afford to travel in a haphazard manner. So there has to be some specific route map, right? It has to be there. And who provides this route map? It's strategic management which provides this route map for the firm, whereby it makes it possible for the firm to make they may make any decisions, take decisions regarding the future, and with a greater awareness of the implications of these decisions. It also provides direction to the company, whereby it indicates how growth can be achieved. Now, the external business environment that influences the management practices that is being carried on within the organization, and the strategy that it links the organization to the external world, right? Any changes in the external forces would create result in both creation of both opportunities and threats for the firm's position. But what basically happens is they all create some uncertainty, and any change creates uncertainty, and the firm has to actually look into it, what could be the probable opportunities and the threats, right? So strategic planning, it offers a systematic means of coping up with uncertainty and also adapting to change, whereby it helps the managers to consider how to grasp these opportunities that is coming up, how to avoid the problems, to establish and coordinate appropriate courses of action, and also to set targets for achievement. Also, strategic management helps in formulating better strategies with the help of a more systematic, logical, and rational approach. And how, through involvement in this process, what happens is when involvement happens, managers and employees become more committed to supporting the organization. And this process is a learning process, helping and educating and supporting activity. Okay, so what happens? Why do firms, more number of firms today are using strategic management? Why? There are various reasons. Because it helps them to be more proactive than reactive in shaping its own future. You make your decisions beforehand based on what is happening, make a prediction and start taking actions. It provides roadmap for the firm, whereby it helps the firms to utilize its resources in the best possible manner. It allows the firm to anticipate any change and be prepared to manage it, helps the firm to respond to the environmental changes in a better way, minimizes the chance of making mistakes and any unpleasant surprises, and also provides clear objectives and directions for employees. Okay, so what is strategy? Strategy is a plan of action which is designed to achieve a long term aim aim, long-term goal, you can say, and the overall, it also helps in achieving the overall aim of the organization. So you can also define it. It's a general direction strategy for any company and its various components, which helps to achieve a expected or a desired state of the company in the future, what the company wants to achieve in the future. So strategy results from the detailed strategic management process. This is important. Okay. Why is strategy important? Because the resources available to achieve these goals are usually limited, right? So strategy actually involves in setting goals, determining what actions can be taken to achieve the goals, mobilizing the resources to execute this action, right? So in other words, it describes how the goals, that is the ends, will be achieved with the help of the means, that is resources. So this is again important. Achieving the ends, that is goals, with the help of means, that is resources. And strategy can be intended or can emerge as a pattern of activity as the organization starts adapting to its environment or starts competing. And it also involves activities such as strategic planning, such as also when we talk of strategic thinking. Okay, so strategic, according to Rumeld, strategy is defined as a type of problem solving. It's a type of problem solving activity. Okay, so Mintzberg describes 5 definitions of strategy. Strategy as a plan, which is a directive course of action for achieving any intended set of goals. Okay, strategy as pattern. It's a constant pattern of past behavior with a strategy realized over time rather than planned or intended. So based on the past behavior, you start determining you plan it out, and you, based on the past behavior, you decide how to go about in the future. Okay, strategy as a position, so where you look at brands, products, companies within the market based on the conceptual framework of consumers or other stakeholders. Strategy as ploy, so it's a specific maneuver intended to outwit a competitor. And strategy as perspective, where you execute strategy based on a theory of business or natural extension of the mindset of the perspective of the organization. Okay, so in brief, what is it? What is strategy? It's a large scale future oriented plan for interacting with the competitive environment in order to achieve objectives, or it's a game plan of the company, and it's a framework for managerial decisions. So the formal definition of strategy, right? What is it? It's defined as the direction and the scope for any organization over a long term. It gives the direction and scope for any organization or a long term, which helps in achieving the advantages for the organization. How? Through proper allocation of resources within a challenging environment in order to meet the needs of the market and also to fulfill the stakeholders' expectations. So what is difference between strategy and tactics? A strategy talks about the company's long-term goals and how the company is going to plan to achieve them, right? So in other words, what is it? It gives the path that a company needs to take to move ahead to achieve their mission of the organization. Tactics are much more concrete and are much more oriented towards smaller steps and a shorter time frame. So strategy is long term, tactics it's small. It's has a shorter time frame and much more concrete in nature. Okay, so next topic is management, right? So what is strategic management then? It involves in setting objectives, analyzing the competitive environment, the internal organization, evaluating strategies, ensuring that the management rolls out the strategies across the organization. So starting from setting out the objectives to right across is how how the management starts implementing it, right? So it involves all the management functions, that is planning, organizing, directing, implementation, and control, and is considered as integrated and holistic approach. Next comes up is competitive advantage, right? Now, what is when we talk of competitive advantage, we know that nearly everything can be considered as competitive advantage for an organized market organization, for any organization in the market. Say profit margin, higher profit margin, greater return on assets, valuable resources, right? Or unique which are some unique competence. So every company must have at least one advantage to successfully compete in the market. If you do not have any advantage, it's very difficult to compete. So because if you can't identify one, so what happens? So your competitors will start outperform you, and soon you'll be forced to leave the market. So any organization that is capable of outperforming its competitors over a long period of time has a sustainable competitive advantage. So competitive advantage at the country level, right? So a country can become competitive in a global scenario through various advantages, which ranges from natural resource available available to it. Traditionally, it is seen in various ways through Porter's diamond model, right? This is Porter's diamond model that we have, right? Where we see firm strategy, structure, rivalry. These are the things which is up there. Related, it needs the related and supporting industries. And so what happens? If you have to have the proper strategy, structure, you need to have factors, conditions, right? And once if changes occur, so these conditions also change and the strategy starts changing. So everything starts changing. So these are related. Demand conditions are there, and then government also comes into play. So all of these are interrelated. So let's talk of each of these conditions. One is the factor conditions. The factors, when we talk of factors, it's infrastructure, financial resources, natural human resources. Factor conditions for a particular country, it refers to all these factors, all these resources which are available. Some countries are very rich in natural resources, right? For instance, oil in Saudi Arabia, right? With human resources, what do we mean? We mean the created factor conditions such as skilled labor force, good infrastructure, scientific knowledge, right? These are factor conditions are created because you develop it and it's not natural. Natural means which is already present, means the resources as we talk of. And it's important that these created factor conditions are continuously upgraded. It has to be upgraded. Why? Through the how is it done? Firstly, through skills, development of skills, creation of new knowledge. And why is it done? Otherwise, it will be difficult to compete with the competitors. You will lose out, right, in that competition. So that's why it's required. And nations thus succeed in industries where they are particularly good at factor creation. Whichever country has been able to create these factors has been able to succeed. Next factor that we have is related and supporting industries. Now, it's very important to have related and supporting industries in an organization because it provides a foundation based on which the focal industry can excel, right? A nation's companies will benefit to the maximum when you supporting and related industries, and which would help them to become so then what happens, companies become self-sufficient and competitive to the global competitors. They don't have to depend on foreign firms to provide them with all the supporting equipments, right? And it can often take long time of hard work and investments to create strong related and supporting industries, which assist the domestic companies to become competitive in the global market. But once these factors are in place, then it always helps it benefits the nation, right? Okay, so example here when we talk of the Silicon Valley in US or high-tech city in India, where you have all kinds of tech giants, tech startups are clustered to share ideas and stimulate innovation, right? Next comes up is third factor is the demand conditions. Now the home demand largely affects how favorable industries within a certain nation are. Okay, the demand is the reflection, right? A larger market means what? More challenges, but it also helps in creating more opportunities to grow and become a better as a company. So the presence of these sophisticated demand conditions from local customers also helps companies to grow, innovate, and improve their quality, right? So the companies need to satisfy this demand with the market, which helps them to actually companies to think, develop a proper insight as to regards the future needs of the customers across borders. And so what happens? Nations thus start gaining competitive advantage in industries where the local customers give companies a clear or earlier picture of the emerging buyers' needs, right? Okay. Fourth comes up is firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. Now, what happens is the national context where the companies operate largely determines how companies are created, organized, and managed. The national environment tells us. So it affects the strategy and how they structure themselves. That's the external environment in the country, right? Also, domestic rivalry is also it's an instrument for international competitiveness. Why? Because it actually forces companies to develop unique and sustainable strengths and capabilities. More intense is the domestic rivalry. More companies are being pushed to innovate and improve upon themselves, improvise to maintain their competitive advantage, right? And so what happens? It ultimately helps the companies when they enter the international area. Okay. Next comes up is the next factor is government, right? Government plays a very big role in Porter's diamond model, right? So it's both as acts as a catalyst as well as a challenger. So what happens here? What we see is government cannot actually create competitive industries, right? They cannot create, but only companies can. It's only companies which create this competitive industries. So what happens? Government actually encourages and push companies to reach their aspirations and move to even higher levels of competitiveness. So they encourage them, right? How? By stimulating early demand for advanced products, focusing on specialized factor creations such as infrastructure, educational system, health sector, right? Promoting domestic rivalry, right? How? By enforcing the antitrust laws, encouraging change. So government, thus it helps the development of the all the other aforementioned factors that we just spoke about, which would benefit the industries in a certain country. Okay. Next comes up is chance. Now, what when we say chance here, it what does it? We talk of the random events such as where and when fundamental scientific breakthroughs occur. So these events are beyond the control of government or individual companies, right? Now, what happens when chance? There are some discontinuities which are created by chance, which may lead to advantages for some companies and disadvantages for some company. So some would gain a competitive advantage, others would lose, right? And because while you cannot change these factors, but it at least what happens, they should at least be monitored. You should be able to monitor so that you can make your decisions as and when necessary in order to adapt to this changing market conditions. Okay, so these are the these are the things that we just spoke of: chance, firm structure, rivalry, factor conditions, demand conditions, and related and supporting industries and government. So we just spoke about this. This is up here. So let's talk of the business scenario of Bhutan. What is happening now? We know that Bhutan is 176th largest export economy in the world. As per 2017, Bhutan exported $194 million and imported $482 million, which resulted in a negative trade balance, right? And the top exports are ferroalloys, carbides, dolomite, gypsum, raw plastic sheeting, right? Imports, top imports, petroleum, cars, construction vehicles, iron reductions, forging machines, right? So this is detailed, and some of the top export destinations are India, we know that, followed by Nepal, Germany, and the other countries. Now, next comes up is the concept of ease of doing business. Now, what is ease of doing business index? It's an index which is created by Simeon Jankov, who is an economist of Central and Eastern Europe sector of the World Bank Group, right? So, where it says that a higher ranking, which means a lower numerical value, when it gets a no value is less, that is higher ranking. It indicates better and usually simple regulations for business and stronger protection of property rights, right? So, okay. So a nation's ranking on the index is based on the following factors: starting a business, which includes procedures, time, cost, minimum capital; dealing with construction permits, that's procedures, time, cost to build a house, a warehouse; getting electricity, again, where we talk of the procedure, time, cost for any business to obtain a permanent electricity connection; registering property, where they need what is the procedure, time, and cost to register commercial real estate; and getting credit, that is strength of legal rights index, the depth of credit information index. Next comes up is protecting investors, where it talks of the extent of disclosure, extent of director liability, and ease of shareholder suits; paying taxes, number of taxes paid, hours per year spent preparing tax returns, total tax payable; trading across borders, so number of documents needed, cost, time required for this; enforcing contracts, again the procedure, time, and cost needed to enforce a debt contract; resolving insolvency, so the time, cost, and the recovery rate percentage under bankruptcy proceeding. Okay, so what the doing business project, it also offers information on the distance to frontiers, which shows the distance of each economy to the frontier, right? Entrepreneurship, where it measures the entrepreneurial activity, good practices, talks about how governments have improved the regulatory environment; transparency in business regulation, which talks on the accessibility of regulatory information, measures how easy it is to access all these, right? So ease of doing business in Bhutan. What has happened here? Bhutan is expected to reach the ease of doing the index 85 by the end of, that was a prediction, by the end of 2020. So what is expected, that the ease of doing business in Bhutan is going to be around trend around 85 in 2021, according to econometric models. Part of it, the pandemic, things have changed, right? What has happened up here is in 2018, what had happened was a rank had deteriorated from 89 to 81, right? And that was which was there as per February 2020. That was the source that we have. But Bhutan is second best in South Asia after India, after Sri Lanka and Nepal, and they are all behind, right? So this is the picture that we have of the ease of doing business in Bhutan. Okay, next comes up is the strategies to enhance competitive advantage. Now, today what we have, it's a hyper-competitive market, right? Where every business tries to gain an advantage of over the competitors, and it's getting harder to. Why? Because buyers today are becoming very savvy, tech savvy, so they investigate online to find out. So it becomes more challenging. So what the businesses can do in order to get earn this competitive advantage and keep it, what can they do? So there are a few strategies that will differentiate any business, as well as will help in retaining its customers from the long-term perspective. One is to create a corporate culture that attracts the best talent. Finding the best people, right? Finding the best people, it's not a very easy job, but it's quite tough, but it's a very crucial factor. It's important because happy workers means what? That your customers have better experiences, right? And it's also equally important just as productivity and cost reduction. So customers know the difference between buying from a company where workers aren't happy. They will get to know about it. So you need to have any company should be having workers who are talented and whom you can retain, who are happy. So which actually helps in customer. They would be able to convince the customers, and you can retain your customers, which helps in getting competitive advantage. Define niches that are underserviced, right? Niche is where you have an opportunity which is up there, right? So new area that is there. So here what happens is when you're trying to look gain competitive advantage, it can be easy to go after the known area where it's very easy to find customers. But if you look into areas where customers are underserviced, that will give you a market advantage. So looking for areas where customers are underserviced, that helps. Where there are few competitors, understand the DNA footprint of your ideal customer. So customers are all not the same, right? Why? Because someone wants to buy from you, someone doesn't buy, and so you need to target the right customer, being aware of the buying process, who's involved, and decision making, what information is needed, what time, and so everything that helps your sales team also to win business and retain your customers, right? When customers feel that you are able to understand them, and you are able to blend in with their needs and serve them what they want, they will be with you, which will help in gaining advantage. Now, next comes up is clarify your strengths, right? So what happens is it could be with regards to process, technology, knowledge, expertise, experience. So whatever it is, these actually offer value to your customers, and are what the customers want to buy from you, right? So you need to know how to use these strengths to innovate and create ways to gain new business, new markets. Now, next comes up is to establish a unique value proposition, right? Something very unique. Some could be some of them use their common value proposition like pricing, service, quality, brand, right? While some others would go for some other things, something very unique, special, and competitive, which nobody has thought of, right? So for example, like if everyone in the market is talking about quality, so you can actually say, so well, what about the customer service? So nobody thought about customer service, so you can actually work on making a better customer service and support them better. So that is something unique, right? Okay. Next comes up is reward behaviors that support corporate mission and value. Like whether you want to reward top performance in your organization or to acknowledge customers who are your best buyers, rewarding behavior has many benefits. What happens? Now, this actually plays in the minds of people, right? Towards like travel incentives, opportunities for some leisure with business, build relationship. So that helps. That helps. Even when you have stiff competition, when you have having a competitive advantage, it helps you in greater opportunities to close more businesses, right? So more the stronger your competitive advantage, main thing is this: the stronger your competitive advantage, greater your ability to sustain a position of strength in the market, no matter what the conditions are and what is the level of competition. So okay, so that's all that we have up here, right? And yeah, so if you have any questions, You can tell me in class. Okay.